Hello everyone and welcome to 5-Minute News. Today we'll be going over the Ebola Reston outbreak, how it was handled, and we'll talk to real people from the event. So for a brief overview of the Ebola Reston outbreak, it happened in the suburbs of Washington DC, specifically in the town of Reston, Virginia, and a nearby monkey house there. But before we talk about the outbreak, we have to talk about something very important that happened before the outbreak. And that should jump us into our first interview with Dr. Muse Oki from Nairobi, Kenya, the man that treated the first patient of Marburg, Monet. So Dr. Muse Oki, you treated Marburg and you're very educated about Marburg. Can you just explain a little bit about Marburg? Yeah, so the incubation period for Marburg is 5 to 10 days. After that, if you have the virus, your internal muscles will start to clog unusually, and also your functions that are not basic to your survival will start to be cut off. After that, you'll see some visible symptoms such as the redness of eyes or the weakening of the joints. Okay. Also, can you explain a little bit about Ebola and the Ebola Reston outbreak and how it is related to Marburg? Yeah, so before the people at the Ebola Reston outbreak knew that it was Ebola Reston, their first thought was that it could be Marburg, since it's such a closely related outbreak. So that is why Marburg is so important to this outbreak, is because now we know that the difference between Ebola Reston and Marburg. And one last question. What happened when Monet, the first victim of Marburg, came to Nairobi? Can we just get a brief timeline of what happened before he came to the Nairobi hospital and what happened when he came there? Yeah, so we believe Monet got the virus somewhere in Kidum Cave, and then after Kidum Cave he drove to the airport and then flew to Nairobi. This all happened, and then he came to the hospital, and this all happened in a matter of 3 days. After he came to the hospital, we were afraid that that there would be contamination in the hospital, so we had to close off the hospital. And when we treated on him, he sat. Dr. Musayoki, thank you so much for your time, and I wish to talk to you some other time. So we just heard from Dr. Musayoki, and what he had experienced was Marburg, something that is very closely related to Ebola Reston. And also, we just want to show you a map of the outbreak that was handled in Nairobi Hospital, and it should pop on right about now. Okay, now we're going to talk with Dan Dalgard, the veterinarian of the monkey house where the Ebola Reston outbreak happened. So Dan, can you just give us a quick overview of what happened at your monkey house that made you call the USA? Yeah, so I was called in by Bill Volt, the owner of the monkey house, to come and investigate the monkeys that had died. And I saw something very unusual with them. The spleen was unusually large, and this caused me to call up the people at USA Emerald. Also, can you just give us a timeline of events of what led up to you calling USA Emerald and what happened during it? Okay, so first, the batch of monkeys came into the monkey house. Then Bill Volt called me to tell me to investigate on the monkeys. After that, I phoned USA Emerald, and then they investigated and found out that the virus inside of it was Ebola Reston. Then they took control of the monkey house and wiped out all the monkeys. Thank you so much, Dan. And now we're gonna hear from Peter Jarlett, a scientist at USA Emerald. Okay, so Peter, can you tell us what happened after Dan called you about the virus he was experiencing in the monkey house? Yeah, so after we got some samples of the monkeys, we tested to find out what virus it was, and we found out that it was Ebola, and it was a new strain of Ebola that we had never found out before, and eventually we named it Ebola Reston. But during that time, me and Tom accidentally smelled the virus, and we had a very close encounter with it. But after that, we presented it to CJ Peters' USA Emerald, and then he presented it to the higher ups, and then eventually the monkey house was gotten rid of and all the monkeys in it. Okay, thank you, Peter. Now that we have a clear timeline of events from what we got from Dr. Musayoki, Dan Dalgard, and Peter Jarling, we're just missing out one key part that each of these people mentioned. They mentioned about the monkey house, but we've not been able to get a clear look at what happened there. So now let's find out how this was handled in the monkey house. And let's call up Jerry Jacks. Thank you. So Jerry, you oversee the virus, correct? Yes, that is right. So can you just tell me what happened when you were handling the virus? Were there any mishaps or shakeups that bothered your plans? So there's this one time that was especially scary. Like when one time the Washington Post, they had come to investigate what was going on at the monkey house. During that time, when they were investigating what was going on, and actually before that had happened, one of our workers had actually gotten sick, and we were scared that it might have been Ebola arrested. Luckily, it was just a flu, but we were very scared at that point, and he had to be taken to the hospital, and an ambulance came. Luckily, the ambulance came just before the Washington Post arrived. So when the Washington Post arrived, it looked like nothing was going on, nothing of significance was going on to them. So they just. So I just have a question about how you got rid of the monkeys that were infected with the virus. Did you get rid of all of them? Did you just get rid of a couple of them that were infected with the virus? And what did you use to get rid of them? So to get rid of the monkeys, we would lay the monkeys down and give them an injection of T61, a euthanasian agent, which killed the monkey. We would do this for every single monkey. We were just afraid that there might be some silent carriers that would have spread the virus later on. Okay, thank you for everyone that joined the show today. So now let's just go over what happened during the outbreak. First, we had the monkeys that were infected with Ebola arrested. That was shipped to the monkey house where we had Bill Vogt find the monkeys that were in his monkey house and that were dying. And he asked Dan Dalgard to look into them. And then Dan Dalgard suspects that there's something wrong with them and contacts USA Emirate, who then takes control of the mission by making it the first biological mission of its kind carried out by them, and then finds out that it's Ebola resistant, and then gets rid of the monkeys at the monkey house. So some important history on why this is important. This is the first biological mission carried out. Something else that is very important because of this is that we are sure now that any products coming in to the United States are not infected with a disease, so that a kind of outbreak like this doesn't happen again. So I just want to thank you all for joining 5 Minute News.